Welcome to another episode of FishingLocalWaters.com. I'm only laughing because right out there, a large fish just jumped. I'm out of the water, and so they decided to jump. But anyway, well, welcome to another episode of FishingLocalWaters.com. We're fishing on the Big South Fork of the Cumberland River today. The reason I'm fishing this area is we have a series of episodes that deals with the coal industry. Now, this is not a tree-hugging video. We're trying to hold a balance between the need and the industry itself, but also trying to point out some of the issues, long-term issues, that we're going to have to deal with long after they get done coal mining. We're still going to have to deal with these issues. You see, coal is often mined, or at least this coal is mined with a chemical called pyrite. And what happens is, in these abandoned mines, the water levels will change. The water level will come up, it'll soak the coal that's left behind, and then that pyrite will begin to crystallize or salt. And then the next time the water level comes up, that will mix with the water level, and when it's exposed to oxygen, it will begin to rust, and it'll put out a color that's called yellow boy. And you can definitely see it. When you see it, you know what it is, but it's rust and it's sulfur. And it changes the pH value in the water, where it kills the fish and all the aquatic life associated with the stream. Now, they've been dealing with this, putting in holding ponds and so forth, and trying to deal with this issue for some time. And they've probably done more work in that area than a lot of folks have. But we'll talk more about that. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with another episode of FishingLocalWaters.com. Welcome to another episode of FishingLocalWaters.com. Remember, if you're fishing, you're almost always fishing in someone's local waters. So when on private land, talk to the owners and ask permission. And always be courteous and good stewards whenever you're on private or public properties. As a reminder, if you haven't already, please subscribe below. It helps us and allows us to keep you informed. As always, we hope you enjoy this segment of FishingLocalWaters.com. The Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area lies within the Cumberland Plateau, which is the southern part of the Appalachian Plateau of the Appalachian Mountains. Over time, these areas have been severely eroded, leaving the terrain sharp, beautiful, wild, and rugged. But this wasn't always the case. Hundreds of millions of years ago, the areas shown in gray used to be a swamp, where there was an extreme abundance of massive plants that was converting large amounts of energy from the soil below, the water, and the sun above. When these plants died, they fell into the swamp and were eventually covered by deposits, dirt, and rocks that resulted in extreme pressure and extreme heat that squeezed out most of the oxygen and hydrogen and left behind seams of carbon material called coal. Therefore, the area in gray is now referred to as coal country. For buried within this landscape is massive amounts of stored energy brought forth by the extreme contrast of life and death. For centuries, individuals have tried to extract and control this energy source. They dug deep into the bowels of the earth to collect the remnants of death itself and expose it for the first time in millions of years to the moisture and oxygen that nature had worked so hard to extract from it. All in the name of converting this energy source into another form of energy, such as heat, steam, and/or electricity. For energy cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed. It can be converted and somewhat controlled. Those who control this power become powerful, and those who do not fall under the control of those who do. The story of coal country is a battle of such control over this power. It is one of good and evil, conservation and greed, life and death, authoritative control and independence, and it is deep-rooted as the coal itself. This story is as current today as it was 100 years ago, and it continues to positively and negatively impact you as it will your children's children. In upcoming episodes, we will continue up through eastern Kentucky and into West Virginia. We will discuss coal refuse dumps, slurry impoundments, floods, lawsuits, politics, cover-ups, advocacy, water and stream conditions, whistleblowers, murder, mine disasters, solutions, reclamation, transformation, and the restoration of the chestnut trees. At each location, we will be standing in the headwaters of major watersheds in which many of you obtain your drinking water. We do hope that you come along as we explore the history and discuss these life-sustaining issues. For now, let's get back to one of my favorite places, the Big South Fork. Today, the National Park Service tries to hold a balance between promoting the area's natural beauty and outdoor recreation opportunities while recognizing the area's deep-rooted historical ties to coal and lumber. For one cannot truly understand or see the area's true character until the mist of history settles and the area's rugged beauty and character is exposed. In coal country, coal barons calculate any given coal mine could play out in less than 20 years. Therefore, they often implement a get in and get out fast business philosophy to maximize profits. In many ways, this area was lucky to be greatly influenced by a lumber king who just happened to have coal on his property. Justus S Stearns, known as the Michigan Pine King, purchased 50,000 acres west of the Big South Fork River in 1898. And by 1905, he owned over 100,000 acres that covered over a 200 square mile area and located in 6 counties in Kentucky and Tennessee. Although coal was part of his industrial empire, his business philosophy was a longer-term agricultural-based business model, with trees being his cash crop. Like Hershey, Pennsylvania, Pullman, Illinois, and Corning, New York, Stearns Kentucky was a company town that integrated everyday life into the company's endeavors and operations. This works for the employees, town, and company if the CEO maintains a constant balance of growth and benefits for the company, the community, and the individual employee. This paternalistic, merit-based management style was practiced by several noted industrialists of the early 1900s. My first hint of this philosophy was when I learned of the Stearns golf course. The baseball field in the middle of the town was also an indicator. However, Coalfield baseball has a rich history of company-ran semi-pro and pro teams competing throughout coal country. But this 9-hole golf course open to the community was and is a notch above.
What separates Stearns Heritage Golf Course is its history, nestled in the beauty of the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, on a course that's been unchanged for nearly 100 years. Built by and on land owned by Justus S Stearns, a northern industrial baron who had come south at the turn of the 20th century. Stearns Heritage Golf Course stands as McRae County's tie to America's Gilded Age. During the Great Depression, the Works Progress Administration came to Stearns. They constructed the clubhouse and a pool. The pool was state-of-the-art, with a massive gas chlorination system in the basement of the clubhouse. It would become the first swimming pool in McRae County.
In its heyday, the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company owned and operated the Kentucky and Tennessee Railway with 25 to 40 miles of tracks and a fleet of 12 steam locomotives, as well as the world's first all-electric sawmill, powered by the company's own electric power plant, and employed over 2,200 people living and working in at least 18 coal camps. By 1914, electrical service had reached the mines, with motor-driven equipment soon replacing mules. The mining technology used by Stearns during this period was far more advanced than used by other mine operations in the region. Most of all the buildings in Stearns, Kentucky was painted the company's colors of white with green trim and included hundreds of residents. A freight depot, office buildings, pool halls, theater, post office, doctor's offices, schools, churches, the renowned Stearns Hotel and Store. And the company also provided water, electricity, steam heat, and tennis courts. By 1920, the Stearns Coal Company was the largest employer in the Big South Fork region and one of the largest coal producers in the southern United States. The Stearns Company continued to operate until 1976, when they sold its mineral operations to the Blue Diamond Coal Company and transferred their vast land holdings to the Big South Fork National River Recreation Area and other private ownerships. The Stearns Kentucky story is one of the more positive stories involving the community in coal mining. Even today, the community is quick to give credit to the Stearns management philosophies and to Justus Stearns himself. In the upcoming episodes, we will find where mountain communities have been completely devastated and or eliminated by the coal companies. Now, to assume that living in Stearns, Kentucky at early 1900s, or coal mining, or cutting timber is without strife and heartache would be foolhardy. The land was still rugged, the law was scarce, hours if not days away, and the individuals were self-reliant and felt they had a right and was willing to take matters into their own hands when necessary. I was able to identify 6 different mining accidents that claimed as many as 15 total miners. The events included 3 explosions, 1 asphyxiation, 1 rock fall, and 1 Thanksgiving accident where a man was working by himself. There was a shooting over by the church that killed 2, and the Jerome Boyett shooting that led to 5 deaths, including Jerome and another man who was drugged from the jail and executed. And then there was the burning of the Stearns Hotel stemming from union activities. These are all part of the local story and history. In regards to the negative impact on the land, I will say that very little mountaintop removal or strip mining took place, so most of the scars are underground. Nature is quickly reclaiming land where infrastructure once stood, and a new growth of forests is well underway. And I believe that without this history and the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company, the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area would not exist today. So that brings us back to today's issue of acid mine drainage, also known as abandoned mine drainage. By no means is this problem unique to this area. As we will discuss, it is throughout coal country.
You may not know this, but almost 90% of Ohio's electricity comes from coal-fired power plants. And while the newer coal mines are regulated, those old abandoned ones from a century ago are leaking toxins into our streams. Meteorologist Ben Gelber is just back from the Wayne National Forest in southeast Ohio to show you some big concerns about what those old mines are doing to our environment.
Dwayne, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources estimates there are more than 6,500 abandoned underground mines in eastern Ohio, and toxic mine discharge is still turning streams orange a century after the mines were closed for good.
Their parents always told us to stay out of the creek because it was sulfur water. It was a pretty orange color.
Dale Duvall grew up in the old coal mining community of Carbon Hill, which is along Monday Creek that winds through the Hocking Hills past Nelsonville to the Hocking River. Duvall remembers what it was like in the summertime, diving into a large, cool pond on the other side of the hill.
When you would swim in it and when you would come out your bathing suit and you would smell like sulfur.
This is the opening to an abandoned coal mine, the Essex mine, with toxic metal sludge. This is where the Sycamore Run comes through and carries pollutants into Monday Creek. Rainwater passing through long abandoned mines comes in contact with coal, producing sulfuric acid, making Monday Creek a dead waterway. The coal mining industry that supported small communities in rural southeastern Ohio went unregulated, and some coal companies pumped mine wastewater directly into adjacent streams.
We are left with a legacy of dead streams.
The state has spent nearly $30 million since the 1970s to detoxify some 1,300 miles of polluted rivers and streams, sprawled out over tens of thousands of acres.
Everything in purple on this map represents abandoned underground coal mines.
Local groups like Rural Action have stepped up to secure state grants that support coordinated construction projects. But there are serious environmental hazards sealing mine openings. And tomorrow evening, we'll look at how the state takes precautions to avoid what happened in Colorado, where a toxic mine discharge recently traveled hundreds of miles, and how we know a dead creek is showing signs of life.
Using the Kentucky Mine Mapping Information System, I'll place a marker at Stearns, Kentucky. This is the location of the previous drone footage. The area in green is called the mined out area. After years of mining, this is a massive underground void. And there lies the hidden problem. We know groundwater will run in and out of these mine voids, with or without sealing the entrances. In fact, sealing the entrance may slow the exit of the water and increase the accumulated water within the mine. This would allow more volume and time for the water to mix with the pyrite, other minerals, and metals. Depending on the elevation of the mine void, there is always also a possibility that the water leaving the mine is feeding confined aquifers. Of course, we know that the acid mine drainage entering the streams is definitely feeding the unconfined aquifers. Now, once the pH level is lowered and the water becomes acidic, minerals and metals will dissolve into the water. The water will take on a yellow hue known as yellow boy. As the pH drifts back towards a neutral state, the metals will begin to appear in the water, and depending on the metal type, the water color will change. For example, aluminum will create a white haze, and iron will rust and create an orange, brown, or red hue. Copper turns blue, green, or turquoise, and cobalt turns blue. As the pH returns to normal, the metals will fall out and coat the stream beds and the hyperheric zone. What the acid doesn't kill will be smothered by this coating.
Now, if you look at just the water in Stoney Run, it's very clear. So at first glance, you might not think that there's anything wrong with this stream or anything that's impairing the stream, as we call it. However, if you look more closely at the stream bottom, you can see that there's this orange color and this strange kind of globby material, we call this precipitate, that is forming on the rocks. Now, this is actually iron that has come out of the mine drainage and been placed on the bottom of the stream, and it's formed inside of the old mines. So sometimes we'll get iron, aluminum, and manganese are the main metals that precipitate out of the solution and land on the stream bottom. And these metals can be directly toxic to aquatic life, but as you can see, they also make it look pretty ugly in the stream bottom, and they can snuff out the aquatic life on the bottom of the stream. You can see that if you were a little bug or a little trout egg that was laying on the bottom of the stream, this material would be covering up all those little areas between the rocks where you like to live and preventing you from getting oxygen. So this abandoned mine drainage really can create multiple problems in the stream, from affecting the chemistry of the water. While even though it looks clear, it can be very acidic, and it also affects the life on the stream bottom.
In the past, the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area has been working to remove coal refuse dumps, restore stream banks, and install open limestone channels in which the acid mine drainage can flow. The limestone increases the pH levels. And this is not an end-all solution, and there is a lot of research that still needs to be done. Just recently, they received a $3 million grant to mitigate abandoned mine drainage, make safe open mine portals, implement invasive plant management, and control the feral swine, which honestly has always scared the hell out of me. I have obtained permission to attend and film upcoming meetings. I plan to stay involved and keep you posted on the progress. But do you want to know what really scares the hell out of me? Let's go back to the map showing the 18 mines of the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company. And again, for reference, I'll place a marker at Stearns, Kentucky. Then I'm going to slowly pull back for you to see the rest of the United States. Well, I hope that you have an appreciation and understanding about why I have a concern about the number of abandoned mines that we have in the United States and how many of them we have in Kentucky and West Virginia and Ohio, and how that those mines are impacting the major watersheds and impacting the water that you're drinking yourself. You know, coal companies can have a positive impact or a negative impact on the communities in which they are associated. I wanted to make sure that in Stearns, Kentucky, that it was a positive experience that they had in their history in regards to the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company. And so I came down, I was talked to Miss Trammell. She is a volunteer and a very passionate participant working on preserving the history in Stearns, Kentucky. And she took time out today and spent about 4 hours with me going through the history and making sure that this damn Yankee got it right. And I think I did. But I wanted to hear from the community that they felt that it was a positive impact, and just about everybody that I've run into who understands and knows the history believes that Stearns Coal and Lumber Company left a very positive impact on the community. Now what they're trying to do is preserve that history and share it with you all. And I hope you all, when you get a chance to come down this way, that you stop in and see the work that they're doing and immerse yourself in the culture and the history of the area. As you can tell, it's getting late. Dixie and I are packing up. We're heading up through eastern Kentucky. There are several issues associated with coal mining. One of those is coal slurry impoundments, and sometimes those coal slurry impoundments get away from them and cause massive floods, and that's really damaging to the community and to the watershed. But we'll talk more about that in the next episode. Thank you for taking the time. I know this has been a long episode. Thank you for taking the time, and we look forward to seeing you again as we get on up the road with another episode of FishingLocalWaters.com.